This is My Era podcast. We spark the minds that set the trends that change the world as we know. And it starts right now. So let's go. This is My Era. Hosted by Kuda Visa. And yours truly, Mr. Alexander Starr. This is My Era. Represents everybody who knows they want a better world and does something about it. This is our era. What about you? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the This Is My Era podcast. My name is Alexander Starr. Listen, I'm really excited about the guest that we have today. He is, oh my God, where do I start? He's a businessman, he's a ball player, a father figure, a board member, and to bold his words, a serial entrepreneur. From Birmingham, Michigan today, we have Adam House. Adam, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on today. Looking forward to it.
My pleasure. Did I do a well enough job of introducing you? Because I'm sure you have a lot more monikers to go on there, right?
I'm sure there's a couple more good and bad. So let's just stick with the good ones.
All right, cool, man. To give our This Is My Era listeners a little bit more of a background, serial entrepreneur is like really the strong word that stands out, that describes you. You've started businesses that range in the fields of healthcare, mobile web technology, finance, direct marketing. Not only is this your era, you apparently have many eras in this era.
I try to go, I'm going generation to generation, so why lock into one time frame? So
that's awesome, man. So tell me a little bit about your background, growing up, the things that you were interested in, because I think our listeners want to know, when somebody's so successful growing up, what were they like when they were a kid?
It depends who you ask. If you ask my mom, she'll tell you the truth, and then certain people see only the good things. So no, I loved a lot of different things related to business growing up. Like, kind of grew up around the golf course. Would go find lost golf balls and sell them to my dad's friends from
Nice.
Trading baseball cards. Just kind of always loved exchanging goods for money. And so it's kind of just, in my DNA, so to speak, and just always, really loved, like you said, commerce. So.
Excellent. So it's kind of natural in you already.
Correct.
All right. I want to get right to this, man. You left college ball after freshman year to start a business. And to quote you, you invested a couple $100, turned it into millions, and then usually you just, you leave it at that. Can you give me a little bit more insight on that? Because that intrigues me. You invest a couple $100 as a young college kid and turn it into millions. How old were you when you referenced this?
I was 20, so I just completed my freshman year of college and, played a year of basketball there and moved down to Fort Lauderdale for the summer from college to work for some business people I knew from high school, and ended up being very successful over the summer there, and then just decided not go back to school. Mm-hmm. And so I worked for them for a year and then left, kind of said, hey, I can do this. And, like I said, started my own business out of my apartment and, just took it from nothing to a very successful business. So, but just taking it back, a little bit, further than that. So where I really got, my business training. So, for all you listeners out there, as you see like different opportunities, it's not always, what you think it is that's going to lead to your success. So my senior year of high school, there was a telemarketing job posted on the cafeteria bulletin board, and it was to work for Rock Financial, which was founded by Dan Gilbert, who now owns, the Cleveland Cavaliers and Quicken Loans. And a buddy of mine actually and I ended up getting hired, and we got to work for Dan Gilbert, who's, obviously owns the Cleveland Cavaliers and founder of Quicken Loans. So, we got to see, back in the mid 90s, just, what it took to start a business, to run a business, to succeed and fail and to learn from those failures. And so, the opportunities that may lead to your success aren't always as shiny as you would expect them to be, right? So, imagine going and taking a telemarketing job and then, all of a sudden you're, working for Dan Gilbert, who has the Midas touch. Everything he touch, turns to gold. So, I attribute, kind of those learnings my, senior year and that summer, to really, the business success I carry forward today.
So basically, for all our listeners out there, humility can lead to gold. A telemarketing job is, what many would think is less than ideal, but you never know. You never know what door you're about to walk through, So if you humble yourself to go through these doors that might not look too appealing to many people, you could end up walking into a throne room.
Yes.
So what I'm getting from this as well is that having a strong mentor is a very powerful asset to anybody who wants to come up in the game. Yeah?
Definitely. I mean, maybe it's, how I was brought up. And then obviously my high school, was a Catholic high school. And so it was all about, respect and honor and, those that come before you. So you can't read experience in a book, you got to have, those people in your life. And even if their experience doesn't apply directly to your business, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a billionaire. You can learn from a guy that's lost everything, and how is he still, functioning, and what's his plan to recover. I mean, there's different things you can learn from, different people at different stages.
Definitely. You cannot read experience in a book. I think that's very, 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 very powerful. So I want to touch on an experience that it's almost dreamlike. It's very unorthodox. Now, ladies and gentlemen, most ball players start off as ball players all the way. Then as they mature and make their money through contracts and endorsements, the wise ones become businessmen somewhere down the line in their careers. Mr. Adam House is an anomaly in this regard because he did it the other way around. First becoming a businessman at a young age, then deciding to pursue his professional basketball dreams later on. Can you shine some light on this for our listeners?
I think it just pretty much defines my insanity. So after I sold my second business to Akamai, I did a year earn out, and I was 32, I think, at the time, and my wife was like, "Listen, you've been a CEO since you were 19. You need to do something that you love to do, or you're going to regret it, when you're 40 or whatever." And so being in Boston at the time, everyone there is into like Ironmans and triathlons. So I was like, all right, I'll try for an Ironman. And so, I get on the bike, no problem. The running, no problem. Get in the pool, swim down and back. I'm like, forget this. This is way too much work. And so looking at the training schedule, I was like, wow, I wonder if I put the same amount of effort into basketball, I could probably make some minor league team somewhere. And so I hired a trainer for, conditioning, hired a basketball coach, and for 6 months trained, as many days as they would let me, and ended up going to a combine in Ohio, and they had 36 players there. And I was by far the oldest, and they ended up taking 4 guys, inviting them to camp. I was one of the 4. And then they had, 20, 25 guys at camp, and I ended up, taking the second to last roster spot. So it was kind of bittersweet because I just, bought a house for my wife in Brookline in Massachusetts, and she just redecorated it. And I said, the good news is I made a basketball team. The bad news is, we're moving to Rochester, New York, so, but we were able to work through that through a lot of long hours of talking. So,
okay. So where along the line did you become CEO and co-owner of that team? Yes, I said it. This is my era, listeners. He made the team and then became CEO and co-owner of the team while he was on the team. Have you ever heard of that? I haven't. Mr. House, please shine light.
You're making it sound too good, but it was, I really wanted to make the team just, as a ball player and not, hey, I can contribute money or, help, buy the team or get sponsorships. And so, I put in all that work and just wanted to go in and, make the team, and ended up doing that. And then I think one of the guys on the team, just Googled me or something, and he was like, holy cow, So I think word got out to coach and, the management, and they reached out to me and they said, hey, do you want to help run the business side of the team and help us get sponsorships? And so I landed a deal with Nike, and, I was player/CEO.
My God, it sounds too good to be true, but knowing you and your level of insanity, it sounds right on par with you.
It was, yeah. I mean, the reality set in when I was doing, 8 to 10 hour bus rides, watching Martin reruns in New Jack City. Kind of like, what am I doing? But it was good, man. I wouldn't trade that experience for anything.
Okay, so in an interview, you mentioned that you come up with 100 ideas a day. Is this something that just happens naturally for you, or do you intentionally make it a habit to develop new ideas for businesses daily?
I think it's a God-given gift. I mean, I really, just give God the credit for, that mindset. And, with any gifting, it can work for you and against you, and so I have to even monitor, how many ideas I really am coming up with, or, when you're the CEO, like, just because you have an idea, it doesn't mean the timing's right, and so, you have to kind of steward and think through, the ideas, before you even like roll them out to the team. So to answer your question, I mean, it's, nonstop. If I'm in a plane, I'm trying to think about, okay, why are these seats so small and why can't they make it better? And, like how, I'm just always trying to, make life better and less work, or, less uncomfortable, I guess. So, but yeah, it's kind of a, continual thought process.
It's very interesting, and it's as simple as figuring out how you can make things easier for people.
Yeah, it's problem solving.
So simple, yet so complex. Or maybe people make it more complex than it actually is. When this is truly your era, you take something that's complex and you make it simple, and, you reap the rewards. So currently, you're the CEO of Source of Life. Can you tell us a little bit about what Source of Life does and how you're making it your era through Source of Life?
Yeah, so Source of Life is basically a holding company. We have multiple brands we're selling both on Amazon. We have a clean supplement product line that, helps focus on, clean supplements, avoiding, as many synthetics as possible, non-GMO, plant-based products. So, people really, need to, consider like what they're putting into their body, right? If you go to, GNC or Vitamin Shop or any of these, high traffic supplement stores, a majority of what people are taking are, full of, harmful ingredients. So we're kind of trying to come against the trend there, and, it costs more to do it right, but our focus is more on, people over profits. And, just really providing, a quality product. And then, we're, like I said, we're launching some other brands that are, kind of in the oven baking, if you will. And in terms of making it, my era, for me, it's really about the team, and the people are around you is kind of what completes that, complete yourself. Like there's all this, self-made millionaire and do it yourself, this and that. I mean, for me, my journey has really been about the relationships from, each business. I can, point to, some key people that were hired that if they weren't there, I'd be on a different podcast. So.
All right. Well, I can feel what you're doing because, listen, I have a 5-year-old son, about to be 6. And when I'm shopping for food for him, I always look at the ingredients and all the stuff that he reaches for. Dad, I want this. Dad, I want that. I look, and then the first thing I'll read, modified cornstarch, high fructose corn syrup. And these are the most advertised, most accessible foods, and they put them at the kids' eye levels, but they're extremely harmful for them. I'm somewhat of a theorist. I loved sweets and junk foods growing up, and I had a lot of them and not a lot of nutritious foods. And when I was 15, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and no one in my family has it. They say it's genetic, but nobody has it unless it's skipped like 5 generations. My theory is there's got to be something in these foods that they're giving us in these industrialized nations that is tweaking our bodies to kind of glitch, and to know that you're doing something with food because you value nutrition, like real nutrition, purely grown nutrition. This is your era, and you're helping other people live well.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more valuable than your health, right? So, I'm just, hoping as a country or as a nation, people can start taking personal responsibility. I mean, that's awesome to hear, like, you're reading the label, right? It sounds so like, obvious, but, people just don't do it. So, but there is an awakening, kind of happening, and we're glad to, kind of be a part of it. So.
Okay. So what else does Source of Life have under it?
We're also launching, so just to kind of add to the interesting stories here. So my oldest son is almost 11 years old, and he's in a hockey academy up here, loves hockey, but also being around me, he kind of has, just business built in him. And so he saw we were launching these products on Amazon, and he's like, well, Dad, I want to sell hockey products on Amazon. So I was like, all right, when I started my first business, I was, the bookkeeper, I was marketing, I was sales, I was customer support. I said, all right, here's, go to Alibaba.com, and try to find, hockey pucks or whatever it is you want to sell. 3-4 days, he comes back to me, and he had found some products and was already emailing back and forth with, people in China. And then he looks over at me, he's like, Dad, I need your credit card. I was like, my credit card for what? He's like, oh, I just made these business cards on Vistaprint. And I guess from the commercials, he had seen, the Vistaprint, how to make a business card. So he'd already made a business card, designed a logo. I mean, at 10 years old, I was, pretty impressed, So
that's beautiful. Do you think the people he was talking with, do you think they knew they were talking to a 10-year-old?
Well, what's funny, it was over email, and I got nervous for a little bit because I saw one of the emails that said, oh, you're just a 10-year-old boy. And I was like, uh-oh, this is like some stalker. But he had told them that he was 10 years old. So I was like, how did they find that out?
Well, that's respectable. He's a transparent businessman.
That's right.
You got to give him credit for that.
Yep. So, but yeah, he's, we're just kind of, messing around with that and just, giving him that opportunity. I mean, who knows, what it can lead to, when you're that age. Anything's possible. So
I just picture when he's like a millionaire at 12,
at 12,
him flying over and meeting with this guy who said he was just a 10-year-old and like inviting him on his private jet.
Right.
Well, yeah, I'm 12 now, so would you like to do more business?
Right, exactly. I'll buy your factory.
So, fun fact, Adam and his wife, Vanessa, have moved more than 20 times in their life.
Not just in our life, that's in our marriage. So
oh my gosh.
2003, this is our 20th home here in Birmingham, Michigan.
20th home. So I'm trying to wrap my mind around that because how and listeners, please be sensitive to my language and don't think I am discriminating at all. How do you get your wife to be okay with moving that much?
Is she okay? Did she tell you that? So, I mean, I have, everyone's, going to be biased, but I mean, I have the best wife in the world. I mean, from, the day we met, she supported all of my insanity. I mean, it's just, like I said, it's a blessing and a curse, and so, a lot of those moves were around, South Florida, like when we first got married, I was living in Boca, and then we bought a house like in a subdivision. I was like, 23 years old. We're like driving down the street and everyone's getting out of their minivan. And I was like, holy cow, we're not ready for this lifestyle yet. So we moved to like South Beach, and then, we, had a lot of fun, down there. I was chaplain for the Miami Heat basketball team, and, got to hang out with a lot of the players, went to Shaq's birthday party, like did that whole deal down there. And then we started having kids and was like, oh my gosh, we don't want to be in South Beach. We need a minivan and live in a subdivision. So, a lot of it's just been, lifestyle moves, and then through selling different companies, and, and then finally, we feel at home kind of being back where I grew up. So I'm, 10 minutes or 5 minutes away from my high school. I still have a scholarship there, so we're kind of able to interact with some of the scholarship winners, and all that to say, she's just she's okay with it.
So you have a scholarship at your
Yeah.
high school. You give a scholarship to students.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Can you tell me a little more about that?
Yeah. So it's kind of a student. We're identifying students kind of that were in a similar position to me. So my parents got a divorce when I was in middle school, obviously just, caused some, issues within me, a lot of anger, a lot of just confused and, looking for, different outlets. And that kind of continued up until, my freshman year. And then my sophomore year, I transferred to Brother Rice High School and really turned my life around. And so, the scholarship is focused on that kid, that maybe had a really rough freshman year, or maybe had a troubled middle school, but the teachers are seeing like, wow, he's now getting it, or he's applying himself. And so, we look for the most, Christ-like character. And again, that's not about perfect grades or being the best athlete. It's about, the heart condition, and that's something we can control. And so, it's really great to be back here to be able to interact with those students and see the impact over the last, 17 years that getting that scholarship has, helped kids.
So what advice would you turn around and give your 16-year-old self?
Make the change that you made a couple years earlier, so I don't know if I would tell myself anything different, because if I had a shortcut to getting to where I am, I wouldn't be who I am, and so it's those mistakes, that, you kind of turn those mistakes, and they all equal your outcome, the good and the bad equal your outcome. And that's, kind of so I don't know if I'd give myself any advice. I'd rather, kind of see myself go through the process. A lot of people are focused on the destination, and having exited multiple businesses and being an entrepreneur, you're always focused on the top of that mountain. And a lot of times you miss the journey in the process.
So I think a strong word to sum up your values and your mission and core of the kingdom that you've built is legacy. Legacy is very important to you.
It is. And I don't know exactly why it is. But, I've just seen, fathers, I guess, or families, regardless of how much money you leave your kids, it never creates the outcome that you want it to. Right. And so for me, legacy is, that complete picture of, yes, I work hard, but my success isn't everything. And yes, I'm focused on my family, but I'm also making them like self-sufficient, and so I don't know the best way to sum it up, but for me, legacy, it's what you're leaving, behind, and it's not necessarily, what the finances are.
That's extremely powerful for our listeners to hear from someone who has acquired wealth and who has made a successful business track record and continues to do so. To hear someone like you say, money is not the answer. Money doesn't have as much value as your legacy and your ability to teach others to take care of themselves. I think that's incredibly powerful, and that's what This Is My Era is all about. It's for our listeners and for the whole world to embrace the notion that it's beyond the financial impact that you're making. It's about how you're touching other people, how you're impacting other people. And I'd like to quote you in one of the interviews I watched. You said some of the most impactful people may not have had wealth at all. And when I heard that, it really stuck by me because, I think a lot of people place ideals on monetary wealth, but, real wealth is built upon relationships, self-worth, health, and impacting other people positively.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely, and obviously because I said it. So no, I'm kidding. It's nice to have money. It's nice to have finances. Money just reveals what's in your heart, and the more you have, the more that's magnified. So, if your heart is, for your listeners, it's kind of like evaluate, focus of your life now. Like if your focus is all about getting money, like when you get it, it's still going to be the focus. That's not going to change. People say, oh, if I just made $1 million, then I'd be happy. Or if I made 10 million, then I'd be happy. I mean, you look at, professional athletes that come from absolutely nothing. And within 5 years of being out of the NBA, 60% are bankrupt, so, where your treasure is, that's where your heart will be also.
So what's the best piece of advice that someone has ever given you?
The best piece of advice. I would have to say a good name is worth more than any amount of riches. And that was, something my grandpa used to tell me. And, he was, in the military and served as a postman, fireman, never had a lot of money. He was, one of 10 kids. His dad died when he was young. His, mom raised the 10 kids on basically welfare. And, his focus, was, about your name, about your reputation. It takes a whole life to build it and 1 second to lose it.
And it all comes back to legacy, people. What legacy are you here to leave the world? Good stuff, man. Are there any books that you would recommend our viewers to read?
The Bible? No, I'm kidding. I mean, it's funny. Like, there's so many. We live in the information age, and at no time in history has, all of these different methodologies, been like so available, right? You can read about anyone's life or any path to success. I mean, for me, it's, what you are willing to commit to and do repeatedly. So, pick a process that works for you and follow it. So, if you like the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and you can commit to that and do it, that's a great book. But, really there's, hundreds of them out there. So I don't think I would plug one specific book. I would, just recommend a process and sticking to it.
Okay. So lastly, I want to talk about a couple of your boardships. You're on the board of directors for the National Christian Foundation of South Florida, which is the largest Christian grant-making foundation in the world. And I really want to touch on things like this because you do so much, yet you still continue to do so much, right? So can you talk about why you elect to be on the board of other organizations when you're doing so many things for your own entities?
So that specific one, it started in, South Florida. I mean, NCF has been around for decades, but they started a local branch, for lack of a better term, in South Florida, and just, some strategic relationships down there. And they're really trying to, break the trend of South Florida where, everyone's kind of just down there to play, where the rich and famous come to just hang out. No one wants to hear about God or, giving money or anyone else's problems. They want to be on their yachts and, driving their Lamborghinis. So I'm really interested in, what they're doing, down there, trying to unite the churches and the local community. And it's not just about giving more money, but again, it's impacting people. And so, The reason I'm on there is to kind of, just give back. God's given me a lot of talent and, a certain way of seeing things. And, as the opportunities come up, I try to give whatever it is that I can to help.
Okay. Lastly, but not leastly, Mr. Adam House, what advice would you give to listeners who want to make it their era?
The advice I would give is explore every opportunity, but know when it's not the right opportunity. So my persistence has been, obviously led to a lot of success for me, but I've also known when to shut an opportunity down. So, again, like the telemarketing job, people may roll their eyes at that. Well, why would you, do a telemarketing job? But when I applied for the job, I got in the environment and I recognized, hey, this environment is making me better. Obviously it's not a career path for me. I want to be a telemarketer the rest of my life, but, I'm learning about business. And so, I made that my opportunity. Then I've done other things, like when we started Source of Life, we were, doing cold pressed green juice, and I was driving around South Florida in a Range Rover delivering door to door at 5 a.m., dropping off green juice. And, that business obviously doesn't scale. And so we just shut it down. We lost some money on the juicer and the juice, the stuff we had invested there, but, we recognized that it wouldn't scale. And so, we shut it down.
Okay. Explore every opportunity, but know which ones are not meant to be. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank Adam House for coming and spending the time with us and giving us his insight and wisdom. Because, the main thing that we want you all to get from this podcast is wisdom, to take what people who are making it their era are doing and take their experiences and their love and sharing their experiences with us, take those and strengthen our own. Adam, thank you so much for spending time with me today, with us today. Listen, we really appreciate you, and thank you for making it your era and sharing all about it with us.
Thanks for having me on. It's been great.
My pleasure. And make sure you tell your little guy, as his business scales, I want a rematch in basketball because he beat me last time. And not to get too busy because I want my rematch.
He's ready when you are.
Well, he's got a good coach, so I might have to enlist somebody to train me a little bit.
That's right.
Cool, man. Many thanks. This is my era, listeners. This is your era. This is our era. Blessings and love, everybody. Till next time. Circle back. Time for the thought summary. Listen, man, I'm very grateful for Adam House coming on this show and sharing his wisdom. I really hope that you all learned something from it. This guy started businesses when he was in college, 19, and sold them for millions a couple years later, and continued replicating that process until he was able to retire at 32. That's amazing, and it's inspiring. And the key thing to take away from this is it's possible. It's more than possible. People are doing it. So why aren't you doing it? Why aren't I doing it? Well, we are doing it because we're making this our era. So let's keep that in mind moving forward. Today could be that day that you change the world. Today could be that day to change your life. Are you taking action? I am, because this is my era. What about you?
I dedicate my time to making myself better, and it starts right now. This is my era. Well, let's go. This is my era. Oh yeah. This is my era. It's the first that done. This is my era. Come on. This is my era. What about you? Everybody runs the race. Some have what it takes, and others don't make it through. What about you? Stand up when they call your name. Stand out when you do your job. Let greatness notice you. If you're just wishing for glory, then what are you asking?
is my era, this is my era. The mission and the vision never been so clearer. Seems like the world ain't getting no better. If you wanna see a change, take a look in the mirror now. You possess the key to unlock it. Open up the door, opportunities knocking. You can't deny. On this road that we're walking, there's gonna be some obstacles, but we'll keep on marching. Some will doubt you, even talk about you, but this world wouldn't be the same without you. Golden people on the rise, we know our value. Reaching the impossible, we'll show you how to. Don't know about you, but I know about me. I was born with everything I need to succeed. Living out the dreams, what I'm supposed to do, when I'm supposed to be. Cause see,
This is my era. Change that we all wanna see, yeah, 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 whoa, whoa, oh. And as long as I'm living and breathing,